Hello everybody, I am Chris Baker from LuckyGunner.com. It's been a while since we have added anything to our Shooting 101 series. I've had a few requests to cover the AK or Kalashnikov style rifles, so that's what we're going to do today. The AK is a very simple and straightforward rifle to operate, but if you're new to guns or if you have suddenly found yourself in possession of an AK for the first time, you might need some help getting started in the right direction. There are several different methods for doing just about everything I'm about to show you. My goal is not to cover it all. I just want to help you grasp the absolute basics so you can use and handle the rifle safely. Before we get into the specifics, we need to start out with a few guidelines for safety. Safe is a relative term, of course. Anything we do with firearms is inherently dangerous. Every time you pick up a gun, you're making life and death decisions, whether or not you realize it. We can reduce that risk by following the 4 basic rules of safe gun handling. There are different ways to phrase these rules, but here is my summary. Number 1, treat all guns the same way you would treat a loaded gun. You cannot ignore the other 3 rules just because you believe a gun is unloaded. Number 2, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. That means if it were to fire, it's not going to hurt anyone who doesn't need to be hurt, and it's not going to damage anything you cannot afford to replace. Number 3, keep your finger away from the trigger until you're ready to shoot something. That one's pretty straightforward, but that's the one people seem to have the most trouble remembering. Anytime we are holding the gun, but we're not actively aiming at a target and preparing to fire, we need to have our trigger finger straight and glued to the side of the receiver. We don't just want our finger off the trigger, we want to get it as far away from the trigger as we can reasonably get it. Number 4, know what you are shooting at and what is behind it and around it. That goes for the shooting range or anywhere else you might need to use your gun. There is, of course, a whole lot more to using a gun safely than just those 4 guidelines, but if you follow them, you will greatly reduce your chance of unintentionally hurting yourself or someone else. Whenever we handle an AK, or any gun for that matter, the absolute first thing we need to do is clear it. That means we're going to check and see if it's loaded, and unless we plan to fire it right away, we are going to unload it. So, pick up the gun with your dominant hand on the grip, tuck the buttstock in under your armpit. That's going to help support the rifle while you perform these manipulations. The first step is to remove the magazine. The magazine release is this paddle here in front of the trigger guard. Grip the magazine with your fingers and use your thumb to press the paddle forward. That will allow you to pivot the magazine forward and down out of the rifle. Set the magazine aside. Now we need to check and make sure there is not a round in the chamber. So we have to open the action, because if there is a round in there, the gun can still fire. But on the AK, the action will not open if the safety is on. So make sure the safety selector is in the down or fire position. Pull the charging handle sharply to the rear. If there is a round in the chamber, it should eject like that. Hold the action open. The AK does not have a bolt hold open feature, so you have to manually hold it open. Visually inspect the chamber to make sure there is not a cartridge in there. Then you can ease the charging handle forward and then put the safety back on the safe position. I like to keep my primary hand on the grip as much as possible while I perform these operations. Since I am right-handed, that means I have to rotate the gun about 90 degrees and use my left hand to grab the charging handle. If you find that difficult to do for whatever reason, you can just use your left hand to support the rifle by the handguard and use your right hand on the charging handle. If you're left-handed, you don't have to rotate the gun or anything. You can simply use your right hand to run the charging handle. Okay, now that you have cleared the gun, you can do whatever else you need to do with it, like clean it or put it away. In this case, we are going to load it. So put the rifle down with the barrel pointed in a safe direction. First, you have to load the magazine. So hold the mag in your non-dominant hand and then take your ammo and insert the rounds one at a time, just like this. Now, if you find this difficult for whatever reason, it might help to brace the magazine against a solid surface. A standard AK mag holds 30 rounds. Once it is full, the next cartridge will not fit. That's how you know you are done. Now, since I do not actually want to load my gun here in the studio, I'm going to set this mag aside and switch to this magazine that has just dummy rounds loaded in it. Inserting the magazines in an AK can be a little tricky until you get the hang of it. The key is to hook this little lip here in the front of the magazine in the receiver before you try inserting the rest of the mag. So angle the mag so the bottom is pointed the same direction as the muzzle. Then find that mag well, hook in the front of the mag, and rock it in until it clicks into place. Then give the magazine a little tug to make sure it's in there securely, because sometimes the back of the mag will sort of click into place, but the front is not actually hooked in there, and then you try to shoot and the mag falls out and you look like an idiot. It happens to every AK user at some point, but if you give that mag a little tug first, then you catch your mistake before it becomes a real problem. Now, the gun is still not quite ready to fire yet. It is loaded, but we need to get a round from the magazine in the chamber before it will fire. So, move the safety back down to the fire position, pull the charging handle sharply to the rear, and this time, do not ease it forward. Simply release the handle and let it go forward on its own. Now, if I were to pull the trigger, the gun would fire, but I'm not quite ready to fire it yet, so I'm going to move the lever back to the safe position. When the gun is on safe, the trigger will not do anything, but you never want to rely completely on the safety to prevent the gun from firing. We still have to keep it pointed in a safe direction and keep our finger away from that trigger. Before we fire the gun, we need to get into the proper stance. Now, this is not very complicated. You kind of just assume a typical athletic type stance. Your feet should be roughly shoulder width apart with your dominant side foot slightly behind the support side. Square your shoulders to the target, lean forward slightly at the waist, bend your support side knee. This will put your body weight forward so the recoil of the rifle doesn't push you backwards. On the rifle, place your firing hand as high up on the grip as you can get it. Keep your index finger straight and way up here, well away from the trigger. Place the stock kind of in here, off of your actual shoulder and more on the edge of your pectoral muscle. Point your elbow at the ground and not out like this. Now grab the hand guard with your support hand. I do not recommend gripping the magazine. With the stock still on your shoulder, pivot the gun down so it is pointed at the ground just in front of the target. This is the low ready position. It's the default position you will use until you're ready to actually shoot the rifle. When it is time to shoot, bring the gun up to eye level, and as you do that, disengage the safety. Now, the standard safety on the AK can be difficult to manipulate without completely removing your hand from the grip. There are some aftermarket safety levers that make it much easier, and I would highly recommend installing one of those if you can. With the original safety, the technique I like to use is to leave my thumb kind of hooked around the back of the grip, shift my hand forward, and then use my middle finger to move the safety. The safety on this rifle is especially stiff, but some of them are much looser and easier to move. If you're shooting the gun left-handed, you really don't have any choice but to take your support hand off the hand guard and operate the safety with your right hand. Here in the US, the vast majority of our AKs have a two-position safety selector, safe and then fire. The fire mode is semi-auto only, which means every time you press the trigger, the gun fires one round. A true military-style AK has a three-position selector. For those guns, in between the safe and the fire is a full auto position. On full auto, the gun will continue firing until you release the trigger. Full auto guns are a lot of fun. They're difficult to control and heavily restricted in the US. If you happen to be in possession of a full auto AK, I suggest firing the gun on semi-auto mode when you actually want to hit your target. Okay, so disengage the safety. As you raise the rifle to eye level, get your cheek planted firmly against the stock. As much as possible, move the gun to your face. Don't move your face to the gun. Now, you may have to kind of shrug your shoulder up to accomplish this. You may even need to crane your neck down and forward in order to see the sights. What you really don't want to do is to lean your head over to one side like that. Now you can line up your sights with the target. Most AKs have a very simple set of iron sights. there is a notch in the rear sight and a post in the front. Look through the notch and focus your vision on the front sight. You may have to close one eye to do this. Line everything up so that the post is in the center of the target. The post should also be inside the notch with the top of the post even with the top of the rear sight. The sight will wobble around a little bit while you're holding it there, and that's okay. You will not be able to hold it perfectly still when you're shooting from a standing position. The rear sight on the AK is adjustable for elevation. You can move this little slider here up and down based on how far away the target is. The markings on this sight are in hundreds of meters. The setting down here, marked D, may have some other kind of symbol on your sight. That is the battle setting, and it is roughly equivalent to a 250 meter setting. You can leave your rear sight on that setting most of the time. For a 7.62 AK, at any distance between 0 and 300 meters, your rounds should impact no more than roughly 7 inches above or below your point of aim. That's 18 centimeters for you metric people. Okay, so back to shooting the rifle. When the gun is pointed at the target with the sights aligned and the safety off, you can finally move your finger to the trigger, press the trigger to the rear with steady, even pressure, and bang. Congratulations, you have just put a hole in something. In the blink of an eye, after the gun fires, the bolt will move to the rear, a spent shell casing will fly out of the ejection port, and a new round will be loaded into the chamber. Press the trigger again to fire another round, and you can keep doing that until you run out of ammo or you decide to stop shooting. In either case, anytime you stop shooting, take your finger off the trigger, engage the safety, and go back to that low ready position. When the gun is empty, you will hear a click instead of a bang. That means it's time to reload. If you do not want to drop your empty magazine on the ground, you can remove it just like we did when we cleared the gun. So grab the mag, press the mag release, rock it down and forward, get your new mag, insert it, and then rack your charging handle to chamber a new round. Now, if you're in a real big hurry and you need more ammo in the gun as fast as possible, you can perform an emergency reload. As soon as you get a click telling you the gun is empty, tuck that buttstock under your armpit, grab your new magazine with your support hand. Now, a lot of people use the mag itself to slap the mag release and force out the old mag. I prefer to use my thumb instead. So get that old magazine out of there, then insert the new one, chamber around, and you're ready to go. Okay, that is a whole lot to cover, so I'm gonna go over it all again with a quick live fire demonstration. So first, pick up the rifle and clear it, remove the magazine, put the safety in the fire position, open the chamber, make sure that's empty, and release the charging handle, put the safety back on when we're not using the gun. Now I can load the magazine. Just pop those rounds right over the top. All right, now our mag is loaded, we can fire. So insert the mag, make sure it's seated in there good, safe in the fire position, chamber around, and we can go to the low ready position and fire. Click tells us the gun is empty. Grab the new mag, get that old one out of there, rock that in, check to make sure it's in there, chamber, and go. Gun is empty, remove the mag, check the chamber again, put the safety on, and that's it. Table the rifle. Hope you guys found that helpful. If so, the next time you need some ammo, be sure to get it from us with lightning fast shipping at luckygunner.com.